Welcome. Welcome everyone, both here in the church and joining us on Zoom today on this hot day. The music that we were listening to before was called Weightless and by Brian Eno, and I just imagined drifting away in the sunshine, which is all I've been able to do recently. It's drift. But welcome. I'd like to open with some words from Shari Woodbury. Welcome all who come in friendship, who long for genuine community. May you be graciously received here as your authentic self. Welcome those who come in curiosity, full of questions or simply open. May you embrace wonder and encounter new delights. Welcome, you who come heavy with fatigue, weary from the troubles of the world or the troubles of your particular life. May you rest and be filled in this sacred space. Welcome, if you come with joy for flowing rivers and gentle breezes, for changing skies and great trees. May the grace of the world leave a lasting imprint in you. Welcome all who come with thanks for the generosity of the earth, the gift of human caring, and the blessing of spirit. May your grateful heart overflow and bless those around you. Come, let us worship together. And I'm going to now light our chalice candle as a symbol of our free religious faith. And if you're at home, please do light one with me. And may this flame once again remind us of the divine spark in each one of us, which we carry, and may it shine into the world around us. And now let's sing our first hymn this morning, which is, you see we've got two number 33s. Which might look confusing, but one is in the purple book and one is in the green book. We're going to start with number 33 in our purple hymn book, which is Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. So this is quite a stirring hymn, so go from weightless to a little bit of energy as we stand as we're able to sing Enter, Rejoice, and Come In.
Come in. 'Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your ears to the song. Enter, rejoice, and come in.
And let's join together in a time of prayer. Spirit of life and love, known by many names and yet fully known by none, we give thanks for this time and this place of renewal. We give thanks for the ability to begin again after illness, after loss, after disappointment, after meeting the challenge set before us. Grant us the courage to continue on the journey, the courage to speak up well for the well-being of others and ourselves and the planet. May we forgive each other when our courage falls short, and may we try again. Grant us hearts to love boldly, to embody our faith and our values in living words and deeds. May our hearts open to embrace humility, grace, reconciliation. Grant us the ability to learn and to grow, to let the spirit of love and truth work its transformation upon us and within us. Grant us the spirit of hospitality, the willingness to sustain a fit dwelling place for the holy that resides in all being. Grant us a sense of being at peace in the world, even as we are in motion. Let us cultivate together the strength to welcome every kind of gift and all manner of ways to be on the journey together. And let us pause to take time to add the silent prayers of our hearts. We pray for all who are afraid, for all who are suffering, for all who risk their lives to speak freely, and for all who dedicate their lives to the freedom and safety of others. And we wish all beings well. And I just name Salman Rushdie as one of those we may hold in our prayers this morning. Amen. So we're now coming to time for a reading. And this morning, Suzanne is going to read for us. And she's going to read some words by the Catholic writer Henri Nouwen. And they're from his book called Reaching Out, but they're about hospitality.
From Reaching Out by Henri Nouwen. Hospitality means, primarily, the creation of a free space where the stranger can enter and become a friend instead of an enemy. Hospitality is not to change people, but to offer them space where change can take place. It is not to bring them over to our side, but to offer freedom, not disturbed by dividing lines. It is not to lead our neighbour into a corner where there are no alternatives left, but to open a wide spectrum of options for choice and commitment. It is not an educated intimidation with good books, good stories, and good works, but the liberation of fearful hearts so that words can find roots and bear ample fruit. It is not a method of making our God, our way, into the criteria of happiness, but the opening of an opportunity to others to find their God and their way. The paradox of hospitality is that it wants to create emptiness where strangers can enter and discover themselves as created free. Free to sing their own songs, speak their own languages, and dance their own dances. Free also to leave and follow their own vocations. Hospitality is not a subtle invitation to adopt the lifestyle of the host, but the gift of a chance for the guest to find their own. Okay.
Thank you, Suzanne, for reading that so beautifully for us, and welcome. I think they're beautiful words by Henri Nouwen, who just speaks really to the heart of what it means, what hospitality means, and something that we may aspire to. And we'll come back to that later. But our story this morning, we have stories from all wisdom traditions, but our story this morning is from the Christian tradition. And this is from Luke, and it's verses 1 to 7. And it's about casting your nets wider. So one day, as Jesus was standing by the lake of Gennesaret, the people were crowding around him and listening to the word of God. He saw at the water's edge 2 boats left there by the fishermen who were washing their nets. He got into one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon, and asked him to put out a little from the shore. And then he sat down and taught the people from the boat. When he'd finished, he said to Simon, "Put out into the deep water and let down the nets for a catch." And Simon answered, Master, we've worked hard all night and haven't caught anything. But because you say so, I will let down the nets. When they had done so, they caught such a large number of fish that their nets began to break. So they signaled to their partners in the other boat to come and help them. And they came and filled both boats, so full that they began to sink. What may happen when you put out into deep water? Our second hymn this morning is number 33 in our green hymn book. The words will appear on the screen. And this one is about listening, really. It's called Do You Hear? Do you hear, oh my friend, in the place where you stand? Through the sky, through the land, do you hear? Do you hear? Let's sing.
In the place where you stand, through the sky, through the land, do you hear, do you hear? The hoot from the queen, in the vale on the main, in the sun, in the rain, do you hear? Through the road, through the rush, through the through the push, do you hear the hush of your story of the Christ of victory, in your storm and your storm. From the place where you stand to the outermost strand, do you hear, my friend? Do you hear all the dreams, all the days, all the stars, all the praise?
We're going to come now to a time of quiet reflection, a silence, a period of silence for yourselves to use as you wish. It might be for prayer, it might be for meditation, it might be just to sit quietly and consider your own thoughts, or to listen to whatever sounds in the room or out of the room, or to watch your breathing in whichever way feels fruitful for you and nourishing. So I just lead into that with some words by Judy Clement War, who's an artist and author. And she writes, I'm becoming a fan of the pause between notes and pages and words and breaths, between thought and voice, between action and reaction. In that momentary stillness, in that space between before and after, there is possibility. A myriad of paths can be taken, a dozen different versions of me. I hope you drifted off somewhere lovely. So I called this service Opening Spaces for Possibility. And hospitality, I think, is part of that. So this word hospitality, which has a long tradition actually in religious faith, but I think it's come to mean cafes and restaurants, bars and hotels, places where we can stay or eat or drink or all of those, and yes, be made welcome, we hope. They're usually at a price. It's the hospitality industry, after all. And I think we've become accustomed anyway to hearing about its woes recently. But hospitality also has a deeper, more generous perhaps, more spiritual meaning, which we heard from Henri Nouwen. And he called it creating space, free space, where a stranger can enter and be received as a friend, not an enemy. And this is the kind of hospitality that can be offered anywhere, anytime, free of charge. And when we create such space, it does cost us something. Not money, but it costs us something. It requires each of us to not simply be passive, but to extend ourselves, to make the effort to meet people where they are, whether they are different ages or different backgrounds or cultures, whether they hold different views of the world, whether they're differently abled from us or have different skin colour, whether they have different sexuality or gender, whatever way they may differ from you or from me. We can offer hospitality by moving out of our comfort zone and towards theirs. Meeting halfway, ideally. And each time we do this, we open up a space for possibility. Possibility of new understanding, possibility of insight, possibility of revelation, for compassion and caring, and much more. Friendship, for example. For me, it is Nouwen's final sentence that resonates particularly strongly with a challenge, with a call, when he says, hospitality is not a subtle invitation to adopt the lifestyle of the host. It's not that. It is a gift, the gift of a chance for the guest to find their own way. And this is something that Unitarianism is designed, you could say, to do. This is what we're about. We're meant to be about offering the guest the chance to find their own path to the divine, to their own understanding, to their own revelation. It's easier said than done, of course, and it's something we can all learn to do better. Back in 2020, when we were limited to an hour's walk a day, remember that? And I often went to Central Park because it's my closest green space. So I was there and I recorded just a short reflection while I was there to put on Facebook. I don't know whether you saw it at the time. I mean, it didn't go viral, I'll say that. But I was struck by the number of different kinds of spaces that park includes. It isn't just a green space, featureless. It isn't that. It's got lots of different areas in it, as many parks have, of course. Children's playgrounds, tennis courts, cafes, bowling greens, a skateboard park, areas of woodland, paths for walking and cycling, football area, lots and lots of different kinds of spaces under that one umbrella space called Central Park. It's got allotments too, and as you know, I have one of those, or some of you know. So I was just thinking about how the park had been designed to cater for different people, for kids, for families, for adults, for people on their own, for people coming to play a team sport, for someone just wandering through and wanting to spend time in nature, all kinds of things. And it's been done quite consciously. It's not an accident. It's been made as welcoming and as hospitable as possible for different people. And why shouldn't a church community aim to do the same? And in fact, at some level, we do. We have a cafe. We have different groups. We have a poetry group. We have a green team. We have other groups for people with different interests. But I think that, like the parable, we could cast our nets a little further and a little deeper from our usual places. And that this would be fulfilling and surprising for us, as well as for those we might meet if we were to do that. So I think recently, as some of you know, and some of you, one or two of you were there, I met up with a group of Cornish Unitarians in a cafe in Truro. And then with some young people from Bath Fellowship on Zoom. I know that Gav over there is meeting people in a pub in Torbay. I've been exchanging ideas recently with Joan, who's usually joins us online. She's actually in Ilkley today at a concert, about ways to offer space for older people online. There's all sorts of ways we can open up spaces that are not actually here, but are in other places, some of which are traditionally part of the hospitality industry, in fact, like cafes and pubs. Rather than sitting passively waiting for people to arrive, we can cast our nets further out. And I say this not really about bringing people, I'm not trying to lure people into our Sunday services. They may or may not come, but that's not really the issue. The point is that it's our spirituality here to reach out. It's our spirituality to find ways of creating spaces for people to find their way, to find their God, to find their relationship with the Spirit, with the divine of their understanding. And that doesn't work for everybody to come to church on a Sunday morning, although it's lovely for those of us who do. But we can do more. We can reach people in other ways and offer them that gift, as Nouwen put it, a gift of the chance to find your own way. And I think this is a really powerful way of putting our spirituality into practice. It means recognizing the divine in everybody, in everyone. It means extending ourselves to understand. It means recognizing that hospitality is not simply saying, you're welcome here, everyone is welcome here, which you are, but it's more than that. It's about making the effort, like the park, to create different spaces for different people who are looking for different ways in. Different ways, different formats, different atmospheres, perhaps. And that may mean casting nets a little deeper, beyond the shoreline, in deeper water, in places we haven't ventured before. I was thinking about Columpton, actually. We had a trustees meeting at Columpton on, which day was it? Anyway, it's last week. And I think the heat is addling my brain. All the days are just hot, so I can't tell them apart. And And we were talking about, well, what is the point of this little church, a little chapel? It has a very small congregation. Is it going anywhere? What are we doing? And the idea just arose that we're holding a space, actually. It's a space. We're holding a space for people in Devon. It's quite easily accessible from different parts of Devon. And why not do that for as long as we can? Because who knows who may come. And it's another place where people may feel comfortable to gather for whatever reason. So, yeah, thinking slightly differently. The parable from Luke, it's a parable and it can be interpreted in a lot of different ways. And you could ask if you asked 3 or 4 different theologians, they probably all give you a different answer to that. One of the ways it can be interpreted is if you venture into deeper water, then that can be a metaphor for committing more fully to a spiritual life. And as that story was in the context of Jesus, I don't know if recruiting is the right word, finding disciples, then he was definitely calling them into a deeper spiritual life. So there's that side of the story. But fishing in deeper water may also suggest there is abundance if you are prepared to look for it. But you need to be willing to move out from your comfort zone. It's a lesson, I think, in not doing the same thing over and over. We heard that Simon, who didn't know what was about to happen to him, but anyway, Simon, who was the fisherman, was putting the nets in all night and not catching anything and just sort of resigned to that. And yet, when it was suggested to him that he might move out of the shoreline, suddenly there's a multitude of fish. So there's that side of it too. And I think there's also the feeling that if we're prepared to move out, then God and the universe are prepared to meet us. So there's that same sense of hospitality, shared hospitality between us and the divine. If we move towards, it moves towards us too. So this works personally as well as in a wider sense, because this also works for us ourselves, to open spaces for ourselves. So recently, what happened is I went on holiday to the Hebrides, as some of you may remember, and that was lovely, but my usual shape of my day stopped. I got out of my routines, and this happens to me, I'm afraid. If my routines change, I've struggled to get them back again. So it's taken me a little while to get back to my morning journal and my yoga, which is what I like to do in the mornings. And they both create really important spaces for me. So the journal, for me, it's a blank page. Each morning it's a blank page. But it's a space. It's a space for possibility, because I don't know what I'm going to write on it. But I'm sort of held by the habit of doing it. I'm held by the page and the edges of the page. And I have a pen, and that's all I need. And there is the space. And who knows? What sometimes happens is that I just write things that are really boring. And what sometimes happens is that quite out of the blue, I'll write something that makes me stop and go, yes. Who knows? And then to the yoga mat, which is another kind of very simple space. It's a physical space. It welcomes me. It holds me. It gives me parameters. This time not to write, but to move. And the course I'm doing at the moment, which is an online course, it's called Breath, and it's all about moving with the rhythm of your breath. So stretching and folding and balancing and all of it in rhythm with the breath. And I love it because I get to imagine myself more flexible. I get to imagine that there is space opening up within me that there is space between my toes, that there is space between my vertebrae and my organs. And in the visualizing and imagining of that, it is as though that is actually happening. And maybe it is. So I pause to ask you, as I have done before, but it's always a good question to ask you. How do you open up spaces for your own spiritual exploration? How do you hold space for you and your God? Do you light a candle? Do you create a shrine? Do you have a particular room or place that you go to? Maybe in your mind, maybe in nature. Do you practice silence? Do you pray? Do you meditate? Do you practice mindfulness or movement? Whatever you do, are you aware of the space holding you? And are you aware of, as the space is holding you, it is also setting you free? That it is a safe space, I hope. That you feel that it is, whatever it is you do and wherever you go, is a safe space. And yet also it opens up possibility for the as yet unknown. And you might consider perhaps, what would it take for you to go deeper into your practice? What would it take to make you move from the shoreline? So I invite you, next time you pray or meditate or do Tai Chi or sit under a tree, whatever it is you do, to commune with the divine, to play with the possibility of what would it take to go deeper. To cast our nets beyond the shoreline into unknown water takes courage. But it is what we're called to do again and again. Both to return to the spaces that are familiar and known to us, that nourish us, as well as to enter them more fully, more deeply, and even to move beyond them. For this is how we extend ourselves, and it is how we practice extending ourselves to reach out to our God and to the stranger, who it may well turn out are one and the same. This is how we offer hospitality to ourselves, to each other, to all beings, and to the God of our understanding. Blessed be. Our final hymn today is back to the purple hymn book. I like to keep you on your toes with the hymns. And this one is number 195. We sing a love that sets all people free. We sing a love that sets all people free.
Streams up like water clear.
Our closing video today is going to be a song called Wide Open Spaces, which I hope you will enjoy. But I'm just going to share now some closing words. And they are from Sue Monk. They'll be familiar, I think, to some of you, but probably not to all of you. To be fully human and fully divine. In other words, fully myself. To accept all that I am, the parts I like, as well as the parts I struggle with. And to embrace all that you envision for me, however wonderful, however scary. This is my prayer. Walk with me, I pray, out towards the very rim of life itself, to a place beyond the familiar and the comfortable. Take me with you to that exquisite edge of courage and possibility, and release me there to become what I am. Amen.